Welcome to Dead Headspace. I'm your host, Patrick R. McDonough, joined always by my co-host, Brennan LaFaro. Say hi, Brennan.
Hello, everybody.
And today we are joined by Ross Jeffery. He's the author of many books, some being Tome, Juniper, and he is also a fellow podcaster. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
And we are a part of Silver Shamrock's Horrorcast, a podcast network that includes Killing Time with Silver Shamrock and Unburying the Dead, where we exhume classic horror paperbacks for the new generation. So, Ross, let's get started. What got you into horror?
I got into horror quite young. My parents didn't seem to have a filter, which is pretty good for me. But yeah, I remember being like left alone, and I just used to like pick out all these kind of horror films that were around, and like I think I watched The Exorcist when I was like about 9 or 10, and
Holy shit.
love that film. That film is like I know people see that film now and they're like, oh, it's a bit dated, but like I could still watch it and still be petrified and love it. And then yeah, I've never been academic, so like at school I really struggled with kind of writing and reading, and I used to hate reading out loud, and the teachers used to make you read out loud. And then every time I'd stutter, she'd be like, right, start again, and I'd get worse and worse, and by the end I was just like, oh, I hate this woman. But yeah, and then I kind of just used to just read in my own time, and like the first book I remember, like proper big book that I remember reading was Stephen King's It, and that was probably when I was about 12. Some of it went over my head when I was reading it, but I really enjoyed it. Like my dad had this huge, in the lounge, a massive kind of wall-to-wall bookshelf, and it was just full of like Stephen King first editions and like The Exorcist and like just Rosemary's Baby and all these kind of like, and I used to just take the covers out and look at them because I was scared of books anyway because I couldn't really read. So I was like looking at the covers and I was like, oh, these are just amazing. And then it just kind of kicked on from there, and I just love being scared. Like it takes a lot now to scare me, but I just love that feeling of it. And especially when you're reading a book and it scares you, it's so much, for me, it's so much better than like a jump scare in a film or something, because you're actually just picturing it yourself and you're freaking yourself out. Yeah, that's kind of how I got started in it. And I just love it. I don't watch that many films anymore, but I find my scares in books.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to get a little bit back into what got you into horror, but something jumped out at me. And if it's something you don't want to talk about, obviously feel free to say pass. But you said that when you were younger, you struggled a little bit with, reading aloud, stuttering. Now, I've listened to you on podcasts, I've listened to you speak on all sorts of different mediums, and you're very, eloquent and, well-spoken. So I wonder, is that a hurdle you had to get over? Is it something you still struggle with? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so writing and reading has always been a struggle when I was little. So I think I had some kind of issue with it at primary school. So it was never picked up back in my day. They didn't really care. And like I kind of went to secondary school and I just was writing at the deep end, and I was like, I don't know, like I struggled with writing there, and there, and I couldn't work out in my head like forever. I still do it now. Like I struggle with kind of like picking out which one is what, and it's something I've had to work really hard at. And obviously I chose to be a writer, which is mental. And yeah, it's just something over time. And like when I was at school, I just hated it. I hated everything about learning about books and like English and everything. I just shut down. And it wasn't until I went to university and did media arts and video production, so like made films and stuff, and I picked it because I thought I wouldn't have to do much writing, but actually there's a lot of writing involved. And then I kind of just got the bug from there. And like when I was at uni, like I had to write like papers that were like 2,000 words long, and then that was like a lot of words, and like I write that in like a couple of hours now, and I was just like, it's mental how it's all changed. But like, and I still, there's still people, and I've spoken about it before, like there's still people out there that want to tear you down and kind of make you feel little and belittle your achievements. And like with Juniper, like it was the first kind of long book I've ever written. Like nothing before, I'd write 5,000 words roughly. That was my kind of zone. And then I did Juniper, and an indie publisher was going to publish it, and they got like some academic person in to kind of have a look at it, and he was an author, and they were like, oh, could you read this and see if it's going to be viable or whatever. And then he took it, read it, and then sent me, I've got it in my desk here, I'll keep it there so I can just look at it and stick my fingers up at him. But he sent me like a 3-page email back, and he just completely ripped me to shreds. He was like, oh, you need to shelve this, it's not good enough, your language isn't eloquent enough, and people aren't going to believe some of this, and you don't particularly say what part of America it's in. I don't think he even read it properly, because I didn't want it to be a place in America. And then it was just line after line, and I was reading it, and if I wasn't, because I've grown like quite a kind of tough shell over the years about my writing and stuff, and I was kind of like doubting myself. But I think if I wasn't where I was, that would have just ruined me, and I would probably not bothered writing again. But like, I showed it to my wife, and I was like, can you have a look at this, because this guy said all this and you've read it, can you just tell me if I'm being stupid? And she read it, and she was like, it just screams like he's jealous. She was like, just forget about it, the book's good, put it out there. And then went from there. And some of my friends have said, you only get better at writing by writing, and that's my debut, and I know there's some issues with it, but yeah, it's a constant thing. I still struggle with it now, and I guess that's why editors are amazing, and they don't get the credit that they deserve most of the time. But yeah, and like I've used the same editor a few times, and I've got works back before, which has just been like loads of red in it and just changes and all this. And then as I've developed and honed whatever skills I have, they've become less. And then he's sent back messages saying, oh yeah, you used to struggle with this, now you've got it and it's working well. And but yeah, that kind of stuff. But kind of like the speaking in public, I hate all the time. But I guess it's because I'm not talking about stuff I'm passionate about. And like, when you find something you're passionate about, you're able to talk as much as you allow me to go on.
That's a good observation. It's almost like when you're passionate about something, it just bypasses that hang up switch. The thing about that author who shall remain nameless's comments about Juniper that raised such a red flag to me is the language is not eloquent enough. That book is full of a lot of eloquent language. I mean, whereas my writing, I feel like, is a little bit more direct, I guess I would say. It's just like, I really subscribe to the Stephen King idea of don't tell me the character is going to defecate when they're taking a shit. But it's like, you read Juniper, and I think I said this in my review, and there's a poetry to it. There's this like desolation mixed with beauty, and I feel like that is the life of the prose. So I mean, that's just interesting to me. That jumped out a mile high.
Oh, thanks, man. Like, yeah, some people say, like, I can't. Is it purple prose? People use, and I think that's got like a stigma to it, but I love it. So that's kind of like my style. And I tried to keep it with everything, but yeah, it's interesting. It's honed over a long period of time though. Like, it's not been that easy. Like,
if
I'm
you
not
lean
very well educated.
If you lean into what you like, what you're happy with, like there's some authors that like soft, is that the right word? Quiet horror. There's others that like extreme horror. Like, lean into what you like. Your audience will find you. So what's really awesome is how you brought up something that I don't really think about anymore. Maybe I do. Brennan, call me out if I'm full of shit, but that is often. That's
go
where,
ahead and finish so I can tell you for real.
That's where you said there's a lot of points that I loved. But one of them was how you said, if I wasn't at this point, this mindset right now, if this author said that to me, it would have torn me apart. And I'm right there with you, man. And I still to this day don't really understand how going back to when I jumped into the writing world online on Twitter, it was 2014, 15. The first person I met was Duncan Ralston. He's a Canadian. And then somehow that bled into Sinister Horror Company with Justin Park. And I just kind of explored that, Crystal Lake Publishing. So I didn't even talk to a lot of American writers online for years, like I did to you guys across the pond, and I got a lot of great pointers. And it took, let's see, I really focused on wanting to be a novelist in 2013. Don't have any out yet. Wrote a lot, and it's 2022, and I'm still just really starting to find my voice. And it's because of friends like Brennan, because of a fellow UK writer, Mark Cassell. He's going to kill me if I say Castle, and so forth. But I'm bringing all this up because if at any point I got that too, I don't know how it would have felt. I don't know if I would have been brave enough to reach out to more people I didn't know for beta readers, which I find very helpful. So I'm just glad that you brought that point up. The next thing I wanted to talk about was in school, I struggled too, mainly in high school. I don't know if the curriculum's the same over there or was back when you were going, but I didn't like what we read. Like I can appreciate Shakespeare now. I didn't then.
Yep.
There were only two books I remember liking back then. That was The Great Gatsby and Animal Farm. I don't know why I connected with those two, but beyond that, didn't care about books, and I felt too dumb.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until last year where everything settled in to realize that I needed medication for my ADHD that never went away. I'm bringing all this up, and I talk about this often because it's important. You never know when someone's going to listen, and I felt alone. I felt really dumb, and it wasn't until all this kind of settled in until I was really hitting strides with Brennan with my beta reading, going back and forth with his reading, having my wife, because it sounds like knowing you, it sounds like your wife is very supportive. So all that for me was a similar path with you. There's no end to this, so Brennan, jump in, buddy.
Boy, there was a fizzle there. All right. No, I think those are very, very good points. And, I think all three of us can kind of relate to, maybe feeling a certain way about the material assigned and you don't connect with it, but yet the curriculum tells you that human beings are supposed to connect with it. This is what, a great and powerful council of humanity has decided that, every 16, 17-year-old in America or England should read, appreciate, and have an understanding of. And I think that's a flawed system at best. And I also have no question. So Ross, unless you have comments on there, I can throw out an unrelated question. Okay.
It's worth noting also that Ross has some nominations from his peers on his own writing, so that says something. And one being the HWA Horror Writers Association for Bram Stoker Award finalists. Like congrats on that.
Thank you.
That's a big deal. Whether you win it or you get nominated like you do as a finalist, like it just. I'm speaking from a place of ignorance, not knowing how the voting entirely goes, but that is to me just as brag-worthy and something to be very proud of. And one of those things where all those assholes that gave you crap, a little fuck you to them.
that is true. Yeah. I've got it up on my desk, like above my desk here, like the award certificate, and like when it happened, I was just like, bloody hell! Like I was like, I can't even all the people on the list, and I was just like, shit! Like they're like proper writers, and I was like, it just took ages for it to settle in, and I still sometimes I'm not like one of these people. Oh, I'm the Bram Stoker nominated author. So I'm glad you brought it up because I wouldn't have.
That's the Brit in you, isn't it?
Yeah, just stay humble.
Yeah.
I just can't believe it. And it was like, because after I finished Juniper, and I just went straight into writing Tome, and like it obviously I cut my teeth with the novella, and then it was just a novel, and I was just like, I'm just gonna jump straight in, carry on writing how I've been writing, and then I got all that back, and I was just like, yeah, this is pretty good, like being on the list, and then I was like, because I do like a preliminary list that comes out, and I was on it, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if I just wanted to get into the nomination bits, and then I could be a nominated author. And then it happened, and I was like, oh wow, I've got everything I wanted. Like this is cool. And then the longer it went on, I was like, damn, I could win. And I was just like, I was like, shit. And then my friend was like, he said, you know that author that sent you that email? And I was like, yeah. He said, do you want me to just message him and tell him that you got on there? And I was like, no, it's fine. He was like, well, why don't you send him like just a bag of shit in the post? I was like, no, I can't do that. But yeah, but like he must know that it's out there. Like, but you know, be the bigger man and forget about it. That's what I say. Like, he's obviously jealous, so he's gonna leave him.
The old saying of the best revenge is living a good life is true though, man. Because
it's true, yeah.
Because guess what? Anyone, and I do have a question that connects to what I'm about to say, but every single person online could call you a piece of shit. But guess what? At the end of the day, you turn that screen off and you got the best wife in the whole world that is your rock, and no one can take that away. So that's the biggest, fuck you, I don't care about what you got to say. That's what I've learned over the course of the last 6 months or so, to really lean into your support system, mine being my wife, my son, Brennan, a few others. Ross, you've kind of, been there too for me when I need you. So that's what I want to kind of go into. You brought up people that tear others down. And it's not exclusive to this industry. It's become a thing in our species, specifically on social media. And I would like to get your opinion on it because, and we don't have to go into any details about one thing or another, but what's kind of your overall look at it as an English writer? Because I'm only seeing it through American eyes. I know we see the same thing, but maybe you see things in a different angle than I do.
Yeah, I think as any kind of like indie author, like social media is our kind of bread and butter. Like, you need it to set. Like, if I didn't have Twitter, I probably would not be known anywhere other than Bristol. And even then's a bit of a push. But like, I would say, like, looking from the outside, it's just like in life as well, you've just got to find people that you resonate with. Like, you're not going to get on with everyone. Everyone's got their own baggage they bring to it. And I think as well, in the quick fire world that is social media, people just don't pause, and they just get carried away and will send something out into the world and think, oh, I can delete it later. But then, like, it's been screen captured like 50 times and then it doesn't go away. And yeah, it's like a massive, well, you guys would say dumpster fire. But yeah, it's like just trying to navigate that, but like, I see it all going on, but I don't get involved unless it's something I truly believe in. And I just keep my head down, and because someone is probably just having a bad day, but I think there's better channels to process your bad day than going on Twitter and tearing people to shit. But yeah, it's just me. And yeah, I just, if I'm having a bad day, I won't go on Instagram or Twitter and talk about it. I'll just keep it to myself and move on, or process it in some way, or write it out and get on with it. But not everyone is like that. And that's what makes the world a brilliant place.
I wish that instead of people locking into what they don't like about someone, whether it's a valid reason or not, and never letting that go, which is what more people do than less. I wish that we would lock into what we are similar with, or if we're not in agreement, get a bridge, instead of burning shit down, get a bridge to connect on some level, because we probably connect with each other more ways than not if we were to just chill the fuck out. And that's all I gotta say about that, Brandon. Jump in, buddy.
I think as well, there's another thing. I heard a phrase. Sorry, Brandon.
No, go ahead, man.
I can't remember the phrase completely, but it was saying like, you really discover who your true friends are when they're clapping your achievement, or when you get something, the people that remain silent. That's quite a big thing. I think, like, I don't care if, let's say like Eric the Rocker, for instance, doing massive, like, brilliant work, and I knew him when he wasn't. He was still putting out work, but I was just like, yeah, I'm cheering him on all the way, and like, he's climbing the ladder, and I'm going to continue to cheer him on. But some people will remain silent because they kind of want people to stay in their level or their bubble of kind of indie stuff. But there's loads of that though, like other authors that step up and transcend the indie genre and go up, kind of seem to be not almost attacked, but like seem that it's fair game that you don't have to like support them anymore because they're doing all right and they're fine. But then you expect them to still support you, even though you're not. Like, it's just a quid pro quo thing, you know. If you're not going to support someone, don't support them, but don't expect any support back. It's like, come on.
It's been a weird journey for the two of Brennan and I with the show, and it hasn't even been 2 years yet, man. It's been a lot of weird ups and downs.
Yeah.
You know what I was gonna say is, Ross, the one thing I latched onto was just, that you said was a little bit ago now, was just so simple. Like, I see it going on and I don't engage, and I really feel like that's just words to live by as far as social media goes, because whether you pinpoint it to one person or 1,000, you're always going to see it going on. And there's, if you really sit back and do pros and cons, there's just not really there's not really a good reason to engage, to jump into the shit slinging. Another point is, I know you were just using it as an example, but how anyone could not celebrate Eric's success is beyond me, because they're the nicest person in the world. They're a fabulous writer, and everything that's happening to Eric is so well deserved.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's crazy. And I think as well, like with because you get those pylons as well, don't you? Like when someone's done something wrong, and then everyone just comes out of everywhere, and it's all slinging backwards and forwards, and you're just like getting spattered in shit. And it's just like, oh, come on, just pass. Like he's done that wrong. She's done that wrong. Just accept it. And then you see it like go on to like Goodreads, and everyone's like slamming a book rating because they said something bad, and it's just never ending. And like if you keep on looking to like tear someone down, you're just going to just ruin them completely. And we should be in a place of, especially in this kind of community of like helping each other out stuff, like accept someone's done something wrong, and then if they accept it and they come out, it's just like, okay, let's start again, let's see how we go. And then if they mess up again and again, then you got to think about it, and you got to be like, okay, let's cut our losses and move on. And there's enough people out there that you don't have to have contact with the person that's causing all the strife. But
absolutely. And people will say like, oh, Twitter doesn't sell books, and I vehemently disagree. I think that authors at our level, like, we are very dependent on social media. Maybe not 100% dependent, but it's more than 50. So it's a necessary evil. It really is. And one thing that I've shared with Patrick that works for me is, if I see something that I want to respond to, rather than throw more negativity in the world, I'll go through Goodreads and find something that I enjoyed recently, and post a shout out to that author, post like repost a review, just put something good out into the book world. And now that I've thrown that out there, every time somebody sees me saying nice things about people, they know it's because I don't want to say shit things about another person. But
there's something going on behind the scenes.
but I do believe in that. I think that this is a great tool for building people up. It is I'll use the word great again in a different context. It's a great tool for tearing people down, and we kind of are faced with that choice of how exactly we're going to use this, to borrow from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah. So this is a terrible segue, but I just wanted to mention, and then Ross, I would love it if you could be an American for a minute and brag about your podcast. So Kev Harrison, we had him on August of last year, episode 109. He's just a hell of a fun guy to talk to. And your other co-host, TC Parker, she's as you guys would say, brilliant. All three of you are beautiful people, and I want to hear you say a lot of nice things about your show, and just plug away, sir.
So I set up the show during lockdown. So when COVID hit, I was writing and stuff, and I was like, I've got a bit more time on my hands. What should I do? Let's start a podcast show. And I was like, oh, this is good, but also a lot of work. But it's been brilliant. And, you know, like I've read lots of T.C. Parker and Kev Harrison, and we've been friends for a while. And then we're kind of like, they wanted to do like a little Q&A about me. This is kind of how it all started. They were like, oh, we want to chat to you about Juniper, and just kind of like have it. So I said, okay, we'll try it out, do one show, did the show. And then we were like, okay, this sounds pretty cool. Should we interview? I'll do T.C. Parker next week, and then Kev the next week. And then after that, we'll go out and get authors. And yeah, it's been brilliant. We've had loads. So we had like Laurel Hightower, Sonora Taylor, Josh Malaman, Alan Baxter, loads. We're supposed to have Chad Lutsky next week, but I don't know if anyone knows, but Kev lost his father over the weekend.
Oh no.
So yeah, that's been, the show's been cancelled for the moment. But yeah, I spoke to him this morning, so he's kind of processing it, but he's got to fly back from Portugal for a funeral and stuff. So but yeah, heart out to Kev at the moment. But yeah, so it's going well, and we've got a list of authors that we're trying to hit up, and I am not frightened or scared of using social media to contact them, and I will at anyone I damn want. And yeah, so that's kind of that's it. We normally run for like normally just over an hour, relaxed conversation. Normally it's around the kind of someone's book release. So for Chad, it was about Cannibal Creator. And yeah, and I've got I sometimes do one-off shows by myself with another author. So there is something in the works with Josh Malaman that should be coming out soon with his book. Ooh. Coming from Earthling, which is School and Cape. That should be soon. We're just trying to thrash out a date because the book's coming out at the minute. So we're waiting for them to land before we start. And yeah, it's just a place where I can kind of talk about books with cool people. Boom.
I think I saw those the Ghoul and the Cape start hitting people's mailboxes this week, and you know, Ross, you and I agreed that was just it's hard to even find words for that book. It's a brilliant, it's a masterpiece, and it's just probably the most unique thing I read last year.
Yeah, it is probably one of the best books I've ever read, and I'm a big Josh Malaman fan, so it's just like, and I was like I couldn't believe it was 700 plus pages long, because I read it like within about a week and a bit. Like, it's so frenetic, and you're reading it, and I was just like, this is incredible. And yeah, there's not enough words to kind of sum up what it is. And like, you know, I think in my review I had mentioned that it's like a new gospel for a generation of people. Like, it's just so good. And you know, and it's great that it's with Earthling and they're making some coin off of that and stuff. But I'd love to see it get like a big.
Oh, I'm sure it's just
like
Del Rey's probably gonna. Yeah. I would bet that Del Rey's gonna buy it.
It's so good. It needs to be read far and wide, and yeah, it needs a bigger kind of base. And so I have just got a year to just write, which I'm just gonna use Malaman's theory of momentum and just keep going. Like, I want to write 2 novellas and a novel this year, so we'll see how that goes. I think it was Laurel Hightower was talking about kind of characterizations and stuff like that, which I've taken a lot from. And Alan Baxter, when he was talking about kind of the interconnected world of Gulp, like, that's been quite an interesting one. Like, I've got an idea for a novella which is told from various points of view that will flow together, and it's just kind of connecting those dots and having little things pop up in other stories. And so, but yeah, it's just incredible. Like, I love being in the position where I get to talk to writers that I love about books and just learn from them and pick up little things. Like, before, like, as well, I never used to write with music. Like, I used to always write in total silence. And then I think, again, it was Josh Malaman was talking about, like, he writes to soundtracks without words, so just a musical score. So I think with Only the Stains Remain and Scorched, like, I started just listening to soundtracks, and it's so good. Like, it really helps. Like, and I was like, oh, I'm writing a scene that's quite pacey, like, and then I was like looking up like kind of scores that I wanted to listen to, and I was like, oh, right, okay, that's cool. put Fight Club on here, or I'll do this and I'll write to this music, and yeah, it's worked really well. Like that's one big thing that has come out of chatting to authors that I'm going to probably continue to use like forever, because for me, before I used to think, oh, if I had any music at all, it was distracting, but that's probably one of the big ones that I will keep for the rest of my writing days.
So Ross, you just reminded me that I wanted to talk about something, because it's not an isolated incident. I think in general, going back to kind of tearing down people, is seriously tagging people on social media. I know I've gotten criticized for it, and I have successful results with it, with names I didn't even think that would ever apply to me. And I bring this up with you specifically because you've been one of the people that were very much so in my corner, and I will never forget or be unappreciative of that, because that was kind of a really downtime for me for a lot of reasons. But if you're comfortable with it, I'd like to hear your opinion on just, I don't know how else to word it, etiquette, social media, the approach to it. Any other thought you have about this?
I would say that if someone has a social media account, it's fair game. You're not emailing them like with their private email address. It's a social media account, and also most of the like big names, like Chuck Palahniuk, like he doesn't control his social media. Like someone is doing that for him.
Right.
But like, yeah, I look at it as a writer. Like if someone @s me and is like, "Oh, would you like to have a chat?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool. Like, thanks very much." Like, and I'd engage with them and I'd chat to them. But there are sometimes where someone, forms a kind of what's the word? Obsession is one.
Yeah.
And obviously, like if you're getting like direct messages from someone that's like taking pictures of their feet and sending them to you or whatever, and I love your book, here's a picture of my feet, like that's time to like use the block button. But
yeah,
like I think as long as you're being like you guys are, like, I've seen your tweets when you tweet people about like would you like to come on the show and stuff, you're being like fully out there, you're saying please and thank you, we'd love to have you on the show, you're being courteous. Like it's when you start like just saying, oh, @Stephen King's a real idiot because he didn't reply to my such and such. Like if you're doing stuff like that, then obviously that is not how you should be using social media. But like I have no problem whatsoever in messaging someone to say, like, and then quite a lot of the time I'll message an author and I'll be like, I just read your book and it's brilliant. And then like we have a little backwards and forwards conversation, and it's that's how you kind of use social media to its benefit. Like these people are out of reach for me because I'm in the UK and most of the people I follow are in the States. And like Josh Malerman, like I never knew I would ever get in touch with him, and then like I messaged him, was like, I finished this book and I thought it was really good, and it's the first book I've read, and then I was like, oh damn, he replied to me. And then like now, like I would say we're kind of like friends, like we chat to each other on direct message and stuff, and it's just incredible. Like it opens the world up to you, and I wouldn't say you shouldn't be worried or take any notice of people that are like, oh no, you shouldn't be doing that because that's you're interrupting them. I was like, well, they have social media, like it's their thing. Like if I'm gonna like @ someone, then it's up to them if they look at it or not. Like it's not a big deal. And like I think it's fair game, and as long as you're polite, nice, and you don't become a crazy stalker, then that's fine. And also take no as a no. Like if you've reached out to someone and they've said, oh no, I don't want to do it, then that's fine. Or if you tried to reach out to someone, I don't know, like 50 times, or not 50 times, that's quite excessive, but like if you tried to reach out to someone like 10 times and they've kind of not accepted it or whatever, either one, they didn't want to kind of do it, two, they don't control their social media, or three, they just didn't see it. Because like some of these, like you tweet someone and like half an hour later it's like miles out of their radar, and especially if they're a big author as well, they must have loads of people like tweeting them and they get loads of notifications and they might miss something. But I never really slide into someone's direct messages who I don't know, and I'm like, oh yeah, could you come on my show or do this or do that? Like I'm more of a kind of test the water with one up front, and if they want to have a chat, we can then direct message. But yeah, and like I work for Storgy Magazine, and like I've interviewed loads of authors on there, like Patrick DeWitt, Chuck Palahniuk, James Fry, like all these like New York Times bestselling authors. And I don't care. Like I'm just going to go and ask you, and if you're going to do it, then that's cool. If you're not, then that's fine. But you know, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have half the people that I know or have interviews. Like sometimes you've got to be direct, and you know, sometimes a publisher will put you in contact, and sometimes they won't. And then you're like, okay, I'll just go and find them on social media and ask them.
Yeah.
It's that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my view. Is just use it as like just treat people nicely, and you know, if you're going to ask someone something, then you know, just have all the information to hand and be like, okay, we want you on this show, and it's going to be this time. And but yeah, but like most of all the people I know in the writing world has come from my social media account on Twitter, and me just kind of messaging them to say, I really enjoyed your book, or you know, would you like to come on the show? And yeah, it's things like that. And I think the Josh Malerman one came around because I think I'd mentioned that we had like someone that he liked coming on the show, and then he messaged in there and was like, oh, this sounds quite cool, I'd love to be involved. And then Alan Baxter was like, oh yeah, that sounds cool, I'd love to do that. And then I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, like, we'll have you on. But yeah, like if it's used well, and you know, you're not some crazy person sending photos of your feet, and it'd be cool. There are many of those out there.
I love how you and Josh became friends, man. Seriously, that's awesome. The funniest one where I've tagged someone was Lansdale. I think we were already following each other at that point. I don't know why the hell he was following me, but him, Sina Palayo, Gabino Iglesias, and S.A. Cosby were just talking about rejections, and I just said, do you guys want to do a show about this? And they were all down. And in the group chat, Lansdale was the most like, not pushy, I don't know a better word for it, but the most
eager.
Yes, that's the best word, which I didn't think he would be. And he's just fun as hell to talk to. And you never know if you don't take a shot, because if you don't try anything different, you're not going to get anything new. Brendan, what's your thoughts on this, if you got any?
Oh, I think that Ross nailed it down, that, you know, courtesy is the name of the game. You know, there's, you know, let's take Stephen King, for example. You know, there are people that are going to get upset if you say, at Stephen King, would you like to do an episode of Dead Headspace? But are those same people going to patrol social media for the 8,000 other people who have trolled Stephen King throughout the day, tagged him in posts like, your latest book sucks, why can't you write a sequel to, you know, whatever book came out in the 1980s, and stop talking about politics? I mean, there are people tagged, like the big name authors that, you know, social media might be the only avenue you can use to try and get directly in touch with them. Those people are getting tagged so much, and even though they might not want to do your show, good Lord, at least you're not, you know, chastising them for their, you know, viewpoints on humanity and for the latest work they have coming out that they're proud of. They wouldn't be putting it out if they weren't. So yeah, I think courtesy is the name of the game.
That Vincent, for those that don't know him, he's the guy that basically is the walk-in dictionary encyclopedia of all things Dark Tower and Stephen King universe related. I think he said on his episode that when King tags him, I'm paraphrasing what Beth said, but basically it's very nerve-wracking to go on Twitter, because it's like, well, there's a list, there's a new list, you know, because this guy's got millions of followers. The last thing I want to say about this is, in my opinion, the most surprising one was Peter Straub, because I didn't know he would ever reply, because he didn't reply for a while. And it just goes to show you, sometimes it works.
And was that on Twitter you did that?
Yeah, I didn't know how else to get in touch with him.
Like,
I'm anticipating a tweet from Ross later today.
I was like, yeah. But like, who knew? You know, Peter Straub, like, who knew that he kind of managed his own Twitter? or someone may have managed it for him and then passed it on to him. But like, you know, you miss all the shots you never take. So, you know,
and I got his wife on at a different time, and she's lovely. She had a lot of interesting stories to talk about. Brennan, do you have a new avenue to go down, or
well, yeah, as much as I would love to talk about social media and only social media all day, you know, we did a little Juniper earlier. Let's go back there. So Juniper is a novella. The sequel, Tome, you said you wrote those two back to back, and that is about 300-page book. And you've just finished the first draft of the third in the trilogy?
Yep, just finished it.
Okay.
So that comes in around about, well, it's double spaced, but it's around about 400 pages. So it'll be roughly the size of Tome, I think, when it's done.
Yep. So initially, these two were self-published under the umbrella of the Writing Collective, but now they are finding a new home. So, you know, I wonder what all can you tell us about that?
So just after the Bram Stoker nomination, Stygian Sky Media kind of contacted me and said we'd really love to kind of publish these two books, and they knew I was working on a third one, and they said we'd love to kind of, you know, buy the first two books and then take the third one when you finished it, because before then I've never written for like a publisher or had a deadline, so I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. So I was just like, yeah, you can have it, but I don't know when I'm going to finish it. And then so then I had to take them off the market. So those two, although for some reason some of them are still on Amazon, which I'm trying to work out why they're still there. But I think they might have bought stock, and then there's still like the last of the stock coming out. But yeah, so they've taken those three books. They got Daniel Sarah doing, which so I think they're doing like limited numbered hardbacks, paperbacks, digital copies, and I think audio books as well. And yeah, so all the covers, Taft's books, like the Fearing or whatever it's called, like that. So yeah, so that's pretty amazing. Yeah, so like all those.
Where he had each novella was like a corner of the cover.
Really cool idea.
Yeah. So yeah, when they're all together, they'll form like the kind of like a landscape of Juniper. So on the, I think I've shared it on social media, but like on the left-hand side of this big picture is Juniper, the middle's Tome, and then you've got Scorched on the right. Yeah, so it's just weird. Like you know, they've been really cool. Like I've said, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm hoping it'll be done by January, which it was. Now I've just got to edit it, send it to my editor to have a look at it, and then send it off. And then I think they're all coming out at the same time. I think it's either July or August time. So that is pretty amazing. Like I've been fielding so many questions about them since the Stokers, because I kind of took it off straight after. So people were trying to get hold of Tome and they couldn't, and I was like, oh, it'll be coming out soon, but I don't know when it's going to be. But yeah, and then Scorched is kind of cool. Like I love Juniper, like the whole series, but it's been quite nice kind of finishing it. And I don't know, when I started, I was like, I don't know why I said it was going to be a trilogy. I knew there was a bit more to tell, but I was like, I should have just left it at 2 books, because like, you know, Bram Stoker nominated book for the second one. I was like, is now it going to go downhill? And then I was like, oh no, like am I going to ruin the trilogy? But it's been really cool. Like I love it. Like the idea is pretty good. Like it deals with it's not a big spoiler, like you find out in the first chapter, but it kind of deals with almost like spontaneous human combustion. But it's cool because it brings in lots of, like, all the books you can read out of sync. So even if you read this one first, there's little threads that will pull in the other 2 books without any massive spoilers, because Juniper's quite spoiler heavy. And yeah, it's just pretty cool, like, to see it all finally being finished, and then I can just turn my attention to just writing. I've got like some other stories that I can't wait to write, and the next one is going to be banging. But there we go.
and I think that is important for readers to know. I really found that interesting that the books are, you wouldn't call them standalone, but they almost read like the Ross Jeffrey shared universe, where Juniper is a very self-contained story, but you're going to get references and characters in it sprinkled throughout Tome, and Tome is the same thing, a self-contained story that expands on ideas that were dropped on us in the first book. And it sounds like Scorched is going to follow that mark. It's not like we're getting like a direct sequel. And I do kind of like that idea that you could, if you were so inclined, almost read them out of order. So I want to make sure I'm not going to mess this up because it's something you said earlier. One of my questions I wanted to ask you about is why did you choose the American South as a setting? Now, when you mentioned earlier, something about the American South, did you mean it's not set there, or it's not set in any particular place, just more like an aesthetic?
Yeah, so it was more the aesthetic I was going for. So like the guy who bitched and moaned about it all, like he was like, oh, you need to like say it is like in this state. And I was like, if I don't want to say it's in that state because it doesn't exist in that state, and that would be wrong, like, to do that. So it was kind of more the aesthetic I was going for, like the landscape and what it looked like and what the houses looked like. And and again, like going back to the very first question about horror, like I've grown up with American horror. Like, we did have some British stuff that was cool, but most of it was American, and I've been fed that since a kid. And I was like, when I decided to write a book, I was like, I'm setting in America. Like, and then I was like, oh no, now I've got to like change all the names and stuff, like tap is faucet and like torch is flashlight and all that. And I was like, there's some I still kind of have to like look up, and I'm like, what's the American for this? But yeah, and like I just loved it, and I didn't want to kind of just have like I kind of skirt around where it is. I may say a couple of states nearby or something like that, but I don't actually define where it is, because for me it was kind of like almost like a Twilight Zone thing, like this town can exist but doesn't exist, and it's kind of there one minute and gone the next, and I think it's quite cool, like, and the way I've written it, like it's certain different periods of time have passed in this town, and I could go back to it at some point, but yeah, I've always kind of wanted to write it in the American kind of South. That's my vision for it. I've kept the English spelling mostly for every kind of word, but I've set it in the American. But sometimes I get messages saying, oh, you have written it like in English, not American English, and I was like, yes, because I'm English.
All those extra U's.
yeah, and like arse isn't ass, and all that kind of stuff. But it's just kind of how I wanted it to come across, and as we all know, like, write books that you want to read, and I wanted to write a book in American South with English, but we'll see.
Hey, Patrick, if you don't mind, I have a direct follow-up to this that I'm so curious about.
I'm zipping the lips for audio listeners.
So I think that's so interesting that the suggestion of needing it to be set in a certain state, because my belief is doesn't really matter on the whole, but with this story in particular, isolation is such a key facet. Like, it pervades both books. And I feel like you lose that if you say, oh, by the way, it's 50 miles south of Savannah, Georgia. If you tell me what's surrounding it, then I lose that sense of isolation, which just really develops the atmosphere. So, I mean, I guess that's not actually a question, but I also didn't want to forget it after Patrick, started talking.
Yeah, no, I think as well, like with the books, I wanted it to be isolated, and that, if you find out that it is like this state or whatever, and then you're like, oh, well, they could just like go across to the other state and then they'd be fine, or that they'd come and help them or whatever. And then there was all stuff like, like, I know like your different states have different kind of like penal codes and all this stuff for, like, especially for Tome, like that. And I was like, I don't want to get something wrong that I know nothing about, and I had time to research kind of what the facilities look like and stuff, but I was like, I don't want to like have something that I write be inaccurate. So if I don't have a particular place where the town is, then I'm kind of free to write as I want it to be like. But yeah.
Here's the thing. It's your book. I've had people tell me that, we're recording too many episodes, and other suggestions on what me and Brennan should read or who we should have on or so forth. It's like, that's okay if I ask for your opinion, but it's my fucking thing that I enjoy doing. Kindly fuck off. On top of that, knowing what I know now, I absolutely love. I go crazy for the Twilight Zone, anything really, and for the old show in particular, and the movie from the 80s, and I love that. Because guess what? For me, I don't know if this is what you mean, and you don't have to even comment on this, but for me, that means you're playing in a different dimension, which is my favorite. It's kind of like very Philip K. Dickish. It's relatable, but it's a tad askew off by a few degrees. Like, you understand it, but things aren't adding up to your normality. And that again, for me, that makes it a lot more interesting. So just kind of throwing that out there, one way to look at at books. We talked about this way early on, but you talked about The Exorcist. You saw it when you were a little kid. I'm particularly interested in going back to that because me and Brennan, Kim McKinley, and Russell James, author Russell R. James, we recorded an Unburying the Dead episode. They'll come out in a week or so. Well, as of this recording date, not when this comes out, but we talked about The Exorcist, and I say it a bunch in that one, but I really like the book a whole lot more. But that being said, there's still I think the movie as a whole still lives up. It can go toe to toe with a lot of movies nowadays, especially that last scene, man, where it's that room that's so cold that you breathe a little bit and a whole cloud comes out of your mouth. That whole scene's insanely intense. It's creative. It's a good movie, and I can see why that it influenced so much. And something else I wanted to comment on earlier was your father's collection, talking about Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, Stephen King, and a bunch of others. That's amazing. There's no real question there, but there's one final comment about
but Patrick, let me just tell you that my dad did have this collection. I went off to university where I discovered this real love for reading, and then lived away for a couple of years, came back home to no books, and I was like, where are all the books gone? He was like, oh, I took them to the charity shop because I didn't read them anymore. I was
no.
I was like, what? And he was like, oh yeah, because I read them all and I needed space and whatever. I was like, sorry, you've taken all your first edition Stephen King books, hardback, and given them to a charity shop, and like first edition Exorcist, first edition Legion, like all these, and like Rosemary's Baby. I was like, so you've taken all the books? And he was like, yeah, I didn't think you'd want to read them. I was like, oh my god, right. But yeah, so all of them are gone.
That's
so
true horror.
Behind me, I've got like my shelf of Stephen King hardbacks, so I've had to like re-buy all of the hardbacks again. But
first edition of the Rosemary's Baby, they did like I think 14 or 15 editions within a few years of that coming out.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick.
Ew, sorry.
Just rub that salt in the wound.
Oh, sorry. I'm struggling here now.
Let's pretend you didn't bring that up. So, excuse me. Back to Juniper real quick. So you wrote Juniper and Tome back to back. One comes in about 130 pages. The next one is more than twice that. So what did you learn writing the first one that, you feel maybe made this second one stronger, or at least flow easier?
I think I discovered my voice. Before Juniper, I didn't really have one. Like it was just the first kind of thing I put out. And I think as well, like because I read all the time, like I'm voracious and I just love it. And I think reading more during that time really helped me kind of like get almost like a switch had been turned in my head about language and how it's used. And like breaking down sentences. So you have a short one followed by like medium, then back to short, and a long one, just so it kind of has a lyrical prose to it. And just to kind of explore more. And I took a big thing from like King, like, you know, like when he's talking about something and then he goes off on a tangent talking about a character that probably might never turn up, but it's like, oh yeah, he had this like watch that he got from Bob, and Bob lived down the road and he hung someone and whatever. So kind of like that, and just having the freedom, like, because I didn't know what it was going to be. Like I had a rough kind of like my plotting. I do lots of like cue cards and have a big blackboard, big pinboard up and stuff. But I was kind of like free with what I was going to do. Like I wanted it to be a certain length, so I work with like a 5-act structure, and then I kind of work out like how many chapters I want to be in each act, and then I kind of like plot it out, have a little bit about what I want to write, and then I'm just free to kind of create that chapter with the beginning and the end point. And yeah, just kind of enjoying it. And like, as I said, like I, you know, didn't really like writing, but when I wrote Juniper, I was like, oh, I really enjoyed that process. And then writing Tome, I was just like, okay, I don't know if I'm just going to write until the story's finished. And I didn't think, oh, I'm going to try and keep it novella length to match the first one. I was like, I'm just going to open it up and just write and see what happens. And yeah, it just developed from there and turned into like one of the biggest things I've written. And got nominated for a Stoker.
Yep. And Splatterpunk Awards, man.
And yeah, and Splatterpunk as well. Yeah, I'll see, humble. I'm not going to mention it.
Humble. British. So, you know, I would throw out, you know, I'm glad you shared that. I was kind of hoping you'd go that direction because, you know, Ross and I had talked a few months ago because my first novella, Slattery Falls, is about 35,000 words, clocks in at about 140 pages or so. And when I started writing the second one, I got to a certain point. I said, this is not going to be the same length. And you know, I just kind of wondered what his process with that, and he gave me that great advice: just tell the damn story, like let it be what it's going to be. And because of that, you know, I'm really happy with how the sequel turned out. I'm starting to hear back from beta readers now; they dig it, and I really think it just, if I had forced it to be a certain length, it's not going to breathe, it's not going to work. So I mean, I'm going to draw an underline and highlight that advice that you just shared, because I think it's so valuable for working in a series. And speaking of working in a series, Kev did want us to ask you about the difference between writing something standalone, like Only the Stains Remain, versus writing in a series. So what would you like to share about that?
Never write a series. No, maybe. Writing a series is good. Like, I love it, like all the intricacies, and especially with mine, like it's kind of easier because I set them so it's almost like 17 years between each book. So some people I don't have to talk about, and like, you know, I can change the demographic of what the town looks like over time. But still, like, I'm editing Scorch now, which is set 17 years after Juniper. And then I've got a couple of recurring characters. So it's all that kind of planning, like, you know, you're a planner or you're a pantser. And like with this one, I'm just like, ooh, like there is a lot of getting characters' ages right. Like what's happened in the town. And then I'm referring to like something that maybe happened in Tome, which is 30 years prior to this one. So then I'm like, okay, right, I need to work out the times and dates and all this kind of, because if I don't do it, someone is going to read it and be like, I just had to point out that this happened 12 years ago, not 20 years ago, like you said. But yeah, and it's just like, I love it because also you can kind of develop characters over time. So there's one character that's in Scorched, who was kind of a younger man in Juniper. And there is also a child that is like the main protagonist in this one, which was like in the mother's womb in Juniper. So it's quite cool, like seeing these little things pick up. And like I'm a massive fan of Stephen King, as we've said, and like just seeing some of like his Easter eggs, I'm like, that's why you like create a fictitious town like Castle Rock, man. Like you can just milk that for years. And like I was reading what was it? Different Seasons, and I read Apt Pupil, and it was the first time I kind of read it, and then I was like, oh, this guy's talking about some lawyer that was in Shawshank, and I'm like, is that Andy Dufresne? And then like carried on, and I was like, oh, it is Andy Dufresne. I was like, oh, brilliant. And then there was the body then references the junkyard dog, which ended that he had before he bought Cujo, and then it talks about like how that kind of all happened. So I just love all of that stuff. Like writing a standalone piece for like Only the Stains Remain is it's just really cool to open up a new story and a new world and like crafting characters and stuff. And like when I wrote Only the Stains Remain, it was originally a short story. So it was only like, I sometimes do this with longer pieces. I'll write a short story and then it will kind of haunt me for a while, and then I'll need to write more about that, and then it will turn into a project. And yeah, so I wrote that as a 5,000 word short story, and I was like, oh, these characters are telling me something. I need to like just plan it and have a look. And then it just all kind of came out of there. But like I love just setting up different worlds, but I also love the kind of process of a series as well. It's quite nice. But I don't think I'll write a series for a long while after this one, just to give myself a break.
Yeah, you're right. It's so interesting / fun to revisit characters that you haven't seen in a while, but at the same time, there's a nice freedom to not being beholden to like, a story Bible, to being able to just kind of create new setting, new characters, new story, and just go and let it be whatever it's going to be. That's excellent. All right, so we have talked about a lot of your books, but there is another one that's coming out this year. So let's talk about a little bit about Beautiful Atrocities. We mentioned Eric LaRocca earlier. Eric wrote an introduction for that, correct?
He did, yes. Yeah. Wrote a lovely introduction, as Eric LaRocca is just a fabulous writer. But yeah, he was got like, excuse me. We've been known for each other for a while, and like we always kind of send stuff to each other prior to our kind of like thinkings about it and what we're going to do. So like I read Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke really early, and I read another couple of his quite early on to kind of gauge if we've gone too far, which I probably should get a different person to gauge if I've gone too far, because Eric's nutty. But yeah, so like,
what are you talking about? He's very, very low key.
He is, yeah. Oh, that's just too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we kind of like go back and forth, and like I've sent him like a few of the short stories, and he read them and said like, very nice things, but also very disturbing things about them. And then I just chanced it and just said, oh, you've read a few of these, would you like to just blurb, like do the kind of introduction? And he was like, I'd love to. So again, reach out to people. And yeah, so he's done that, and that's coming out through Cemetery Gates Media, who also published Only the Stains Remain, and they're an amazing publisher. So if anyone's out there looking for someone, they are on it. Like payment is super swift.
I can back you up.
Amazing people.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, yeah, it's a short story collection. There are, I can't remember now, a lot of short stories in it. And there's no theme, they're just my random musings. There's some really cool ones in there, like The Collector of Ruined Things is one of my favorite. And there's 2 short stories in there that I feel might be longer pieces that are just, so this could be a teaser for some, like a book coming out later on, or a novella. But yeah, I'm quite excited by it. It's my first real big collection. Like I did Milk Kisses and Other Stories, which is only 3 with the main publishing. But yeah, this one kind of gives a good grasp of lots of different varying horror tropes and stuff. There's no vampires. I don't find vampires scary, or werewolves. But it's just more kind of the evil that humans do to one another. But yeah, it's quite exciting.
So speaking of Cemetery Gates Media, they have kind of a question. They say ask him about tearing out the pages of signed books. What's that about?
I knew that was going to come up.
Spill it.
We rent. I know. We rent a house, so we don't have that much space. And I get sent a lot of books through my work with Storgy Magazine and Indie World, and people asking for blurbs and stuff. And I'll read a book, I'll blurb a book, and then they very kindly send me a signed copy quite a lot of the time. But I don't have enough space for all the signed books that I receive. Like, I'll keep quite a lot of them, but other ones, I feel really bad now. Other ones that I get in, like if I've read it and I've reviewed it and it's all fine, that's all good. Like, I don't keep every single book I've ever read because my house would be held up with books. But if I've got one that is signed, I sometimes will scalpel out the signature on the page of the book, and I will keep that because it's, you know, someone signed it and sent it to me, and I love the book, and I'm keeping it. But then I will then maybe pass it on to like Goodwill or charity shop or something like that, so someone else can enjoy the book without getting a signed copy, because that signature's for me.
I do that too, man. Honestly.
Oh, there we go. That's right.
No, seriously, I only got so much space. Like, I don't feel bad. Like, I put them in the free little libraries, Goodwill, or whatever. I mean, whatever.
Do you
Someone
rip the
else can have
pages
it.
out first, though?
No, that's. I'm not.
Are you a monster?
I will use a British term. I am not a cunt.
It's just me then.
You know, that's definitely not the first time you've used that word on this show, but I do believe it is the first time you've directly called one of our guests that. So, I mean, that's...
he can call me a cunt too. I am.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm going.
Take the high road, Ross.
Oh, no. Ross is blacklisted me. You're coming down with me, Brennan.
I'm going to start dumpster fire on Twitter now. Go mad.
Oh, great. Yes, he's gonna throw matches right in the dumpster.
Repeat of last
you
year.
Right in there after. All right, hey, let's talk about something positive. So, you obviously you're a student of the genre. You talk at great length about your William Peter Blatty, Ira Levin, Stephen King. So let's turn that the other way. Who are some of the people writing today that you think are either the next big thing or should be?
Eric LaRocca. I firmly believe that Josh Malerman is probably going to be one of our great writers. Like, there's no doubt about. Like, I've read everything he's written, and everything is just pucker. Like, I can't deny his greatness, and like the amount he puts out, I could see him being kind of like a king in years. Like, just so many books, and all of them good. Like, there are some hiccups with King, but I'm not going to ask him about it. And Laurel Hightower, like, I think she's writing some brilliant stuff. Cynthia Paleo, she's just phenomenal. And then I'll have to have a look at my bookshelf. Well, he's already brilliant, but I don't think he gets read enough. Donald Ray Pollock, like, he's going to be down as a great when he finishes writing. So many. S.A. Cosby, man. Like,
of course, yeah.
Damn, like, that man is wicked. Like,
yeah,
I couldn't believe how good Blacktop Wasteland was, and then I thought, oh, this man's peaked already. And then I read Razorblade Tears, and I was just like, damn, like, that book.
No, he's on the ascent.
That book savaged me. I was just like, oh, how can you write so beautifully about a topic that is so hideous and horrendous, and like the characterizations of the dads and how they coped with what happened, and like, oh yeah, he's amazing. Gabino, like, I've loved his 2 books I've read. Looking forward to I can't remember his new one, The Devil something Takes
You Home. You're gonna love it, man. It's great.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Who else? There's just so many, man. Like, yeah, the time we're writing in now is brilliant. Like, when I saw the preliminary list for the Stokers this year, I was just looking at Steve Stredd as well. Like, love the man. He's really cool. And his work is getting better and better. Like Incarnate, I think it was the last one I read, was just non-stop. It was brilliant. And yeah, I just think the time we're writing in now is just a fabulous time to be a writer and a reader. Like, and the indie scene in particular, like I've read some horror from the big publishers and it's just a bit samey. And like indie is where it's at, where you can kind of have a creative freedom to do what you want. You don't have to answer to any particular kind of schedule. You don't have to write something that is like, I'm just saying it because it's right next to me, not because of anything else. The Last House on Needleless Street, like that's been massive and brilliant. And like she's a brilliant writer. I haven't read that yet, but I'm getting to it. But like there's a thing in like the publishing world where that's been a hit. So they're looking for manuscripts that are similar, and it's like, well, why don't you just look for some fresh stuff instead of keep? Because
that's how you got that one in the first place, looking for fresh stuff. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's just a common thing I'm seeing in the bigger publishers. But like now, like, and what I love is that I cheer everyone on, and I love seeing people progress and excel, and like Cynthia getting like her agent and the books that are coming out from her, and like seeing all this stuff happen to good people is what I love. And I learn so much. Like I learn from all the great writers that I read. Like every single person I read, I will learn something from. Like I'm not a finished article. Like I'll continually learn stuff, and like just being surrounded by all these amazing writers at this moment in time is doing remarkable work for me, because I'm like learning from these amazing people that have yet to kind of come on the scene, as it were. But yeah, I think they're probably some of the best ones. I'll probably miss loads of people, and when I finish this, I'll be like, oh, I didn't say that person, and now they're going to be angry at me.
But you know what? The entirety of that answer is what, as much as that sounded like a generic question, you're a frequent listener to the show, that we don't ask that very often. You're very widely read, and you are, a huge cheerleader for the genre. So, I mean, when Ross Jeffery says, pay attention to these people, we know that you've read those people and, the 500 people surrounding them, you have that kind of eye to be able to say, I think this is where we're going, based on an educated guess. I think this is where we're going.
I am going to say as well, because I don't want to forget Tyler Jones. Like he is someone that is going to be special. Like he's special already. Like Almost Ruth, just
we love him, man. He's an amazing person.
Yeah, he's going to be good. Like really,
I would have loved to see that make the first novel for the Stokers. I really thought we were going to see that on the list. But
I recommended it, but they didn't go on it.
It doesn't take anything away from just what a brilliant long form debut it is. Love that book, and I'll shout it from the rooftops all day long.
I reached out to him after the preliminary ballot came up, and I was just like, I want you to know, because I did say I was nominating him for him. I was just like, I want you to know that this doesn't mean that the book isn't any good. Like it doesn't mean that it's not award worthy. Like you have written a truly spectacular book, but it's been decided on by people that have read other books and might not have read your book. And I was just like, so don't take that to heart, and just know that you have written something that is really magical. And he replied, and he was like, oh, thank you so much, I needed to hear that today. And but yeah, like it's just like he's brilliant. Like his books are going to be massive.
Great person too. Great writer, great human.
He's literally, and in every other sense of the word, the closest thing in the best of ways to a Chuck Palahniuk student, both by his heart, his writing, his intellect. Definitely back you up on that. One I want to throw out there, one name is Samantha Koyasnik, True Crime and Waif. She's also a phenomenal publisher. Audio listeners, you can't see this, haven't read it yet, but The Wicked Rex of the West by Ward Neural Low, I guess that's what he's going by, and Darren Kapoff. And one more that I'm very excited for, David Demchuk. It's Red X.
That's on the preliminary focus as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and plus the page
Deckled Edge. Gotta love Deckled Edge.
Yeah, I don't know if that costs more or not, but like I don't see that in a whole lot of books nowadays, and it's just, I don't know, it's the little things. So let's jump to, what are you currently reading?
What am I currently reading? I'm currently, well, people aren't going to see this, but I'm going to hold it up anyway. Brian Bowyer's Flesh Rehearsal. I'm kind of like halfway into it. So he got Splatpunk nomination for this year.
Oh, nice.
And also his short story collection. So I'm halfway through that, which is cool. Like I don't know if you've read Brian Bowyer, but his kind of prose is really stripped down. Like there's no flowery stuff at all. It is just the facts, and like I just love it because there is none of that. Like sometimes I love reading the flowery prose and the purple prose and what I kind of write, and like Eric LaRocca style stuff. But then also there's something to be said for someone that is really comfortable writing the way they write, and they don't care that it is that way. And like just reading it is just like really refreshing. Like I sometimes use Brian, although he writes really extreme stuff, like I sometimes use him as a palate cleanser before moving on to something else. I'm also reading The Dead Inside, the anthology that Laurel Hightower's editing. I'm also reading J.G. Ballard's Crash.
I don't know that one.
It's really weird. I thought originally when I started it, I thought it was the novel for the film Crash, which had dealt with racism and stuff. And I thought it was that, and I started reading this, and I was like, this is not anything like that. It's a lot of like weird stuff going on with cars and sexual orientation with mechanical stuff, and yeah, doesn't deal with racism at all.
Not based on the movie.
Yeah, not based on the movie. That was this movie. And then what's the other one I'm reading? Oh, and I've got to read Donnie Goodman's recent poetry collection that he sent out. He emailed me a copy of it, which I don't read much poetry, but for Donnie I'll make an exception. And yeah, that's kind of it at the minute. But like I read, like in January, I've read an incredible amount. I think I read like 21 books.
That's wild.
Yeah, like I don't know how it happened. I think I've been
You blacked
normally,
out.
Normally I don't remember the book. I just cut the pages out. But I've been reading like 3 books on the go. So I'll read a Kindle version on my way to work and from work, and then I'll read a paperback at home, and it's just made it a lot quicker. But I also read Fight Club 2 the other day, or this month, which was really good. That's a graphic novel, but yeah, it was cool. But yeah, I've read a lot, too much. Like I don't know, I should be writing. But
seems like you're not slacking on that though, too. So I mean, obviously you do not sleep.
I do not sleep ever. No. But I've been reading a lot of books about because my next book I'm writing is called I Died Too, but they haven't buried me yet.
That's a cool fucking title, man.
Cheers, man. And yeah, that kind of is there's not much known about it, but it's dealing with kind of possession. So like I have been reading some stuff, like a lot of the book, and again, like we said, like if you find something you're passionate about, like it's not like really work. So like I've been reading lots of books. I read Come Closer by Sarah Gran.
I've heard good things about that one.
Yeah, it was really good. Different. Coffin Shadows, Exorcist Falls and Exorcist Road by Jonathan Jans. Like Exorcist Road, if you have not read it, is just basically The Exorcist 2. Like it is that good. It is so good. And then I read The Body Will Follow by Robbie Bowley. Is that his says name? And yeah, I'm trying to get my kind of mindset into writing that possession by reading some possession. And I read like the end of last year, I read The Exorcist and Legion, just to kind of learn from the great. But yeah, I'm looking forward to writing that one. That one is just, I'm really pumped for. Like it's almost as excited as I am for The Devil's Pocketbook to whenever that comes out. But like I have the same vibe I had when I wrote that, and I believe that The Devil's Pocketbook is the best thing I've written, but I'm just trying to get agents and stuff, and
Good luck.
we'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that one.
Well, you know what? I've noticed there's a few common denominators, perseverance, not giving up, keep doing what you're passionate about, because eventually a little luck comes your way, you'll get that call. And if you're not writing what you're passionate about, don't matter how much money you got, you're not going to have the heart to do it, and the readers will know it. So keep on doing what you're doing. Seriously, man.
Yeah, I'll keep going. I'll keep trying.
Brendan, what are you reading?
I just finished yesterday Paused by Stephanie Ellis.
Oh,
That's her new one from Silver Shamrock, and it is it's really cool. That seemed like a little basic but it kind of follows this almost plague that has, you know, a little bit of an undertone of COVID to it, where these people basically get trapped in their own bodies. Like they just pause, for lack of better words, but, you know, brain function, eyesight, sensory stuff doesn't go away. They just can't move, and they're stuck wherever they are. And oh my God, the way she writes about that from the point of view of the person getting stuck there, it's skin crawling stuff. She takes an interesting concept and really just executes it the right way. The other thing is, because I'm reading a lot of Brian Keene this year, I just started City of the Dead, which is the second Rising book. I heard a lot of people didn't like the ending to the first one, and this one picks up right where it left off. And he just writes in such a quick and engaging way. It's not bare bones, but it gives you just enough of what you need as far as, you know, sensory details and stuff like that. You walk into a room, you know, this is what it looks like, boom, this is what it smells like, boom, on with the story. Enough to give you a sense of place, but it's not like, okay, I know what the room looks like, you know, turn the page. And, you know, obviously he's not afraid to throw some blood and guts around, which is always fun.
Yeah.
Pat, throw it to you.
Yeah, so I'm reading, finishing up Bob Ford's Burner. Yeah, once it's a good book, but there's a certain point where I had to stop and I went, holy shit. And it's the way I described it, I think, when we were talking with Rich the other night, was Rich Ismar was, it's going at a nice pace, and then it says, all right, let's go on the highway and go 100 miles an hour, and it just does not let go. It's pretty damn good. Bob is a very good writer, so I would recommend checking that out. And what's the other one? Don Winslow's City on Fire. And like you, Ross, I started doing text to speech. So the Kindle books that aren't audiobooks, they're kind of like audiobooks once you get past that that sexy robotic voice. But in all seriousness, like, I don't have enough time, or maybe it's just my ability to not read as quickly as like Brennan or whatever. So that's how I read as much as I do. And then I have a paperback at home, or audiobooks works out too. But one that I haven't mentioned yet that I will be getting to in February is Joe Lansdale's upcoming Born for Trouble. It's a collection with Hap and Leonard, the further adventures of Hap and Leonard. And I want to see, Ross, I want to see actually if you read this. I want to read this year. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
Seen the movie.
That. Yeah.
I like the film a whole lot. How's the book?
It's a lot different. But yeah, it's just it's a modern classic, isn't it? It's really, really good. And just his writing style is just amazing. I can't, like, it's like, I struggled because I had seen the film and I loved the film, but the book is equally as good.
Well, that's good to know. And there's actually one more book I want to pick your brain about. Clockwork Orange is one of my favorite books. One of my friends randomly said, hey, you'd like this. And I thought, to this day, I think it's the most unique, most fucked up book in its own sense of fucked up that I've ever read. And I'm curious if you've read it or watched them. I haven't seen the Kubrick adaptation somehow. I haven't.
Yeah, I saw the film. I've got the book, but I've never read the book. But whilst we're talking about crazy books, Have you ever read Head Cheese?
No, never heard of it.
Same.
Oh, this is a
Jess
book.
who? Who's it by?
Jess Hageman. It is Finney State, I think, is the publisher. The cover's brilliant. Like, it's got like this big pig's head and other bits on it. But it's about like it's very, very cool, twisted, weird. Like, in my opinion, she would be the female Chuck Palahniuk with this book. Like, and trust me, like, it is dark and very cool. But yeah, Clockwork Orange, I've not read. I've got it. It's one of those books like I've always wanted to get to, but I haven't cleared out the time yet. But under your recommendation, I'll give it a go.
If you were to ask me like what are the top 3 books of that genre, that'd be one of them. I'd love to know your opinion on it. So let's just recap. Where can people I'm going to ask where can people follow you eventually, but I'm just jumping ahead to your podcast. Where can people follow your podcast?
Well, it's kind of, I'm not really podcasty, but it's on YouTube. Just type in Ross Jeffery. It's on there. I need to work out how to do the podcast, but I haven't got around to
Talk
that
to
yet.
me. Let's talk about it behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, yeah.
On air, behind the scenes.
But yeah, when eventually I work that out, there'll be loads of posts going out about it. But yeah, so it's currently just on YouTube. My name, Ross Jeffery, and there's a channel there, and then all the previous kind of episodes are on there that you can have a look at. And then also I do book reviews on there as well, and like a reading wrap up each month. Again, just highlighting books I've read and people I think people should read and stuff like that.
You could turn that into an audio file easily for free too. So that'd be one way to, another extension to your platform. Just throwing that out there, man, because you're we're not kissing your ass. You're very you are an intelligent guy that has a wide range of knowledge with not just this genre, but a lot of them. So that's one big reason we wanted to get you on. I wanted to get you on last year, but there's just so many people, there's so many damn people that you want to talk to. You know how it is. And so we had to get you on early this year.
Sorry, my headphones just died. Is the audio still all right?
Audio's still fine. I was just saying that we had to get you on early this year for all those reasons and more. Yeah. Listeners, if you want to check out some articles by guests, by Brennan and myself, check out the store that we got. So then you can go to deadheadspace.com. Next episode is 131. It is the best of season 2, where Brennan and I are joined with Erica Robin. We just talk about some of our favorite moments of last year. We talk about our top 10 books of last year. And let's go to final thoughts. Ross, do you have any final thoughts?
I'm a fan of this show, so I know you ask this question all the time. And
Thank
Tyler,
you,
Tyler Jones stole my answer. So I'm going to have to come up with another one. And it would be probably not fulfilling your potential would be something that I would kind of raise. And that could be, your potential in your job, or your potential as a writer or as a person. But that being affected by external things. So things that people have said, like we spoke about at the beginning, like that author that spoke to me, and he could have just snapped that potential that I had, and if I'd let him in to do that. But I think, just keep moving forwards, keep searching to be better, to be better at what you do, be a better dad, a husband, person, be a better person on social media. I think it's your potential that you might not never make because of somebody else's attitude or the way they speak to you, or things like that. I think is quite key.
It's seriously brilliant. Brennan.
Yeah, no, I think those are great final thoughts. I would just say we wish you all the luck in the world at the Stokers, at the Splatterpunks. Love to see you come away with one or both of those.
That'd be awesome.
And thank you for your time, of course. Thank you for whiling away your Sunday afternoon with us. And it's been a long time coming, so we're happy to have you.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's been it's quite weird being on the show after watching it so long, or listening to it and the people you've had on. But thanks so much for reaching out.
Absolutely. And it means a lot that you listen to, because we have a mutual respect and love for you. And we look forward to seeing you succeed and keep climbing that ladder. And thank you for cheerleading so many people. You have many choices in podcasts. Thank you for picking us.